addicted to? And what did this world do to you? What'll it take to get you through? And how long has this had a hold on you?
Hello and welcome back. Well, I'm back here with my friend Danny. We're going to do part 2 of last week's show. We're just going to do a continuation. So welcome back, Danny.
Thank you.
So I basically just wanted to pick up where we left off, and then I wanted to dig in a little bit more about, how many years did it take before you felt that you'd really hit your stride with the serenity and everything was starting to gel for you? Because again, a lot of people will, me included, I thought, once I put the drink down, that was going to fix all my problems. Little did I know that it's a great starting point, but it is a starting point. You're on a new journey now. We think as an addict that's going to fix everything. No, it really complicates things because we don't know how to live in a normal world and how to we don't know how to cope.
No, it took me a while. Like, even though I got 31 years, they're not 31 years of beautiful sobriety by any means. And it's only in the last few that I've actually, what you would call, where I got into my full swing. And it was...
So when you're saying few, you're talking like...
3.
Last 3 years out of 31, really, eh?
Yeah. And it was just basically, it all boils down to, the program I follow a program of 12 spiritual principles, and you can know them. It's like anything else. Knowledge is a wonderful thing. It's beautiful. But if it stays in your head, it's useless. I mean, if all
you got to apply it.
Yes, if it's not applied knowledge, it's useless. If I could have the best idea in the world, but if it's never applied, it's just an idea. It means nothing. So what I was doing is I was very knowledgeable about the program, but I didn't apply anything that I learned. Some of it that suit my fancy at the time, right? I would use the Serenity Prayer quite often to deal with the situations I got myself in because I wasn't working the program.
And what's the difference now?
Is it how you... I live the program now. I live the program.
So I'm guessing it starts right when you wake up. Maybe you can walk us through a little bit of how do you set up your day? What do you start off in the morning doing?
I meditate every morning or get quiet. I go to work early, and now I'm actually spending some quiet time before I go to work. About 10, 15 minutes, just sort of trying to center myself. And then I get to work early, and I really shouldn't, because I start to go on the phone, but what I do meditate. And I think just now that I've mentioned that, I may cut that scrolling the phone out and just meditate for the hour. But I get there about an hour early, and I meditate at least half an hour, 35 minutes before I go into work. And that's how I start my day.
And then the meditation. See, I've never been... I just can't catch on to it. But what I do is have my own form of that. Like, can I bring myself to that perfect zero where I'm not thinking of anything? No, I haven't been able to achieve that. But a friend of mine's a shaman, and he said, you're putting too much pressure on yourself. He said, whatever you think of is what you're supposed to be thinking of. This Zen that you're going to be a blank slate, he says, is pretty much impossible. But it does start. I can tell you, I do not turn on the news. The TV does not go on. That is not serenity. And I do check my phone a little bit, but I do put it down and have my coffee and have a little bit of me time.
And yes, it's exactly, I don't know, the coffee. Well, get to work with the meditation. And I think with meditation, as you're saying, but it's like anything else, right? It's a learned skill. It's a skill. Meditation is a skill. No one taught us. They didn't teach us in school. I mean, here we are. We're street people, whatever, alcoholics, recovering addicts. And then they say, oh, you're supposed to get quiet and meditate. It's foreign to us. It's not natural to us. It's a practice. It's something that I I find I did struggle with, and I do struggle, but as I continue to do it on a regular basis, it's getting easier and I'm getting better at it. So it's a learned practice. It's just something you have to do.
And what I seem to be finding now is even just the quiet time gives me peace.
Yeah.
And if that's all I get out of it, man, I'm there. Because I never found peace when I first woke up in the morning before.
The actual definition of meditation is self-discovery. That's what it means. It means discovering yourself. So when you meditate, my spiritual belief is we're not just flesh and blood, right? We're spiritual beings in these fleshly bodies. So the spirit that we are is within us, right? So it's trying to learn who you are. And meditation is getting in touch with who you are spiritually on a spiritual level, right? The ego exists here in this world, but the spirit is above it. But we're tri beings. We're mind, body, and spirit, right? So part of what I do is physical. I haven't been doing it for a bit, but you have to be physically fit. You want to be physically fit because if you're not, it gives you another reason to beat yourself up. So if you're physically fit, you keep your mind fit, spiritually fit through meditation. And what I do also during the day is I listen to spiritual books all day long. Now, that's not for everybody. I mean, but I'm at a job, I weld, and I can listen to books because I have to have earplugs in all day. So I got basically noise canceling earphones, and they're not really that good, but they keep the noise out. And I literally listen to spiritual books all day. So
you're learning.
I'm immersed in it. So it's to me, it just becomes second nature. Like when who you are, when spirituality, it just becomes easier to go through life because there's always every answer to every problem I have is a spiritual answer. There's nothing that I don't solve with spiritual answers. Everything has a spiritual answer. So if I'm not, up in my spiritual language, I'm going to have problems using that as a solution, or I'll struggle. But when I'm always fresh with my spirituality, because I read it and listen to it all the time, and I'm meditating, I'm connecting, it's easier for me to go, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to let that bother me. That's out of my control. And I can move to a spiritual solution, which is peace and love, right? Or if I'm going to have an argument, how can I have this argument and still love the one I'm having the argument? How can I approach this argument with love? Okay, first of all, I'm going to see the argument as turning out well. I'm not going to walk into the argument and go, this is going to turn out shit and nothing. Oh, this is going to be bad. If I do that, then guaranteed that's exactly what's going to happen. But if I go into it going, this is going to work out, everything's going to be fine, and I have a good, chances are 99% of the time, that's what's going to happen, right? The negative stuff happens because we think that
we expect it.
Yeah, we expect it. And we think that nobody can read our minds. But we know damn well that we can read energy. We did it all the time. We read energy. You can walk in a room and you can feel negative energy. You know when there's going to be trouble, right? So when we walk into an argument or something, or walk up to somebody already thinking negative thoughts, they're already picking up on it even before you start to talk.
Well, I mean, let's face it. If you're in a relationship, you walk into the room and you look at your girlfriend, she might be 30 feet away. But if she's not happy, it takes one look and not a word needs to be spoken. And you know something's up. I mean, you can feel it and you're like, whoa. Yeah, same thing as happiness. I mean, it's not always negative. But, I've got to admit there was something when we were talking about the podcast, and we were talking about some other things when you and I met for coffee a while ago, and you hit it right on the head when you say mind, body, and spirit. Because I was talking to you about we take care of the mind by putting down our addictions. So we're starting to clear up and not do those behaviors. And then you're like, I am. You started working out. So you start working on the body and you're feeling better. And then, I quit smoking and, the diet's coming on. I'm 59 years old, never worked out before. I'm probably in some of the best shape I've ever been. But the spiritual aspect is one that a lot of people struggle with. But what you're saying is when you combine all three of those, that's when you start to hit your stride. If you're missing any one of those components, we struggle. We've got to be in shape on all three. And then I think, again, you're creating your own energy and your own strength so that if something comes along to try to knock you off that pedestal, you might get knocked off, but you can brush yourself off a little bit easier and go, okay, well, whatever. I mean, I didn't break any bones. When I can jump back on. Whereas before someone knocked us off, we'd be twisted up over that for 3 days, and it would just consume you, and you can't see anything else but red.
I think as we're talking here, it just occurred to me, and I've been saying it to my sponsees and other people I've been talking to. The hardest thing we'll ever do in our lives, the hardest thing you will ever do, bar none, is love yourself. I was actually talking to someone the other day, and he says, you really got to learn to love yourself. Well, you know what? That's a good idea. But I just got to do this first. And then I'll get to that later. It's bizarre how we always put ourselves at the end. Because if we don't love ourselves, right? And what I've learned is that my eyes are the window for which I see the world. So if I don't love myself, I'm going to see everybody through those same glasses that I view myself. And so I've learned that I really have to focus on loving myself, no matter what it is or what I've got to do. Self-care, whatever.
We feel guilty. And I don't know about you, but
it's false conditioning.
It's taken me a long time to figure out I can have my me time in the morning.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is a sense of responsibility with kids. My kids, I was always obsessing do my kids have the clothes, and I'm putting the roof over their head, and do they have everything they need? So, like you say, the conditioning becomes, we're less important, even though we're always taught we're so selfish. When we have kids, I don't know too many people that are parents that don't want to give their kids everything that they didn't have and more. And you always want to make sure that they're well looked after, no matter how far down the ladder we've gone. And again, after years of it, like I said, I put in the deck and the hot tub, and a lot of people are like, well, it must be nice. Well, it is nice. Yeah, I'm not going to deny it. It is nice. But my kids are looked after. I've gone through the family court and the ex and everything else, and I rebuilt my life. And I don't spend my money on the drink or the drug. So I threw in a hot tub, and when I go to work out, I come back and have breakfast. And, there was a little bit of a seed planted there for a little while. And then I thought, I work for this, and I don't really have to defend it. And it might be some other person's idea of excess.
Well, that's just it. You're hitting the nails on the head on every issue. Someone else says must be nice. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It really doesn't. And until we get to the point where it doesn't matter what other people think, we will struggle, because then our happiness is based on what other people says. You enjoy your stuff. You worked for it. What other people say shouldn't even be a consideration, although it is. And that's the issue. Why is what other people say an issue? It shouldn't be. We need to get to the point where we feel good enough about ourselves where other people's opinions don't matter. That's your opinion. That's okay. You're entitled to it. But I'm okay, right? I'm happy. And once we get to that, we truly embrace happiness. When what other people think, we hear it all the time. We'll repeat it. What other people think of me is none of my business. We say it. We rattle that off our lips like nothing. But to actually mean it and go by it, that's another thing. And that's what we really need to do. And that's in loving ourselves and learning to love ourselves. And when you love yourself, that stuff is easy. When you don't love yourself, you're not going to take care of yourself. You're not going to work out. You're not going to do the things Because you don't care. Like you don't feel you deserve, you need it. You don't, I don't think I deserve this hot tub. I don't think, you question it. You should never question your own happiness or the things that make you happy. And that's the problem with the world, right? We don't think that we deserve it.
Well, and I think it goes back to what you were saying on the last show about that path well traveled. And if you think about it, I brought this up in counseling, and the counselor said, I've never thought of it that way. But I said, if you look at anybody that has addiction issues, we pay twice. We pay first for whatever trauma that we went through, no matter what it was. And then the second part is we self-inflict self-destructive behavior. And we become comfortable with it. We're uncomfortable with foreign ideas like looking after ourselves and feeling good. We think feeling good has to contain an external substance which feels good for the first minute or two, but then it leads to depression or anxiety.
It has to fit the mold that's been fed to us. We got a mold. We got
so when we're sober, we don't know how to deal with that. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine a little while ago, female, and we're gonna delve into that later. I mean, you were talking about the sexual addiction, and that doesn't even matter. I'm just talking about when we were in our addiction. You can have sex, not a problem, right? Sober up, and then face someone with feelings and get naked. Wow, that's a whole different kettle of fish, right? Because we're not used to that. Because now
your fears come out.
You're going back to your 14 years old, and we don't talk about that in the rooms and whatever. And it should be talked about, because I talked to her, and it's the same for the women as it is for the guys, even though the guys have to perform and have a little bit more, even that extra bit of pressure. But the women are feeling it too. They've got inhibitions that they wish they could take the edge off. And so that's going to be a whole different topic right there. But, just getting back to your point there, I think the longer I go, I really see the mind, body, and spirit have to come together. And if you're missing any of those components, and I'm not talking about you got to be spiritual you don't have to be in the church on Sunday, and you don't have to be, whatever it means to you, but there has to be a little bit of time spent every day kind of giving thanks, centering yourself, the meditation, looking after yourself, whether it be with your diet and whatnot. And then your mind, again, is got to be followed up with, like, if you've done all the work, but you still got problems, I had to go for deep, deep counseling. And, I did my steps, but I had to go deeper. And then when I started to combine all of those things, now I was able to find serenity. And nobody really taught me that. Like, it's a shame that it took over 10 years. But again, part of my motivation for doing this is to kind of share this stuff. I want the guy that's got the 30 years to be able to share with the guy that's got 2, and maybe he can get it in 2 or 3 instead of 20.
It's not a numbers game. Like,
it isn't. It's
when you decide to fully surrender. When you decide to fully surrender, because your best thinking got you here to where you're at, where you're gonna, quit drinking and drugging. Your life is shit. If you're at a bottom, your life is shit. If you've hit that bottom, it's really bad. Maybe thinking of suicide. But that's the best point of your life, because it's a point where you're going to give away what you've had for something else. It's a point where you're finally ready to say, fuck it, my best thinking got me here. I'm gonna change my thinking. I'm gonna chart a new path. Work some new epigenetics on a new path, right?
But I just think that it's still a bit of a lost generation, whereas I've seen a lot of people with multiple years that aren't necessarily happy. They're damn right miserable. So they don't know. There's certain tools that are given.
If you don't use them.
But you hit it right on the head right there. You've got to be able to use them. Some people need to be shown. It might be a hammer, and you might say, listen, all you got to do is pick it up and slam something. Easy for you, not so easy for someone else that's never picked one up. You come from the generation I did. I'm sure we've never talked about it, but when we were teenagers, you had a date on Saturday night, you were under the hood trying to get the car going. We were wrenching and we got that jalopy going, and we could go to the drive-in, and you had a date, because if you didn't have wheels, you were pretty much SOL. But today's generation, they don't get the tools in their hand. You know what I mean? They don't get that practice. So I get guys coming to me, they're bright enough, but they haven't got that experience because they didn't spend their spare time tinkering around. I mean, you can't do that on today's cars. But I find the same thing in the people that are in 12-step need to be shown. They need some of this information, because although we think it's out there and readily available, there needs to be a little bit more light shed on it. Why did it take us so long? Well, nobody really showed us. Nobody said, why don't you try this? We hear some stuff and they skim over it. I could just use the analogy. I was looking up something on YouTube trying to edit some of the audio. And the guy said, you cut here and you cut here, and that's all you have to do. I watched at least 4 different videos. They all forgot one step. You've got to right-click the mouse, highlight it, and then hit delete. Without that step, you ain't cut nothing. As a matter of fact, if you click on the wrong thing, you're losing the whole track. So that's my point, is the instruction portion. What you think in your mind, how you're giving the information and how it's being accepted, keeping in mind that the people that we're trying to mentor still stuck in a fog.
And that's actually part of that is what's keeping me. That was the aha, was service to others. And when I give service to others now, it's me sharing my experience, strength, and hope, because that's all you can do. That's all you can do. I mean, all these other things that you're talking about are wonderful things, but if these people don't want them, and as the nature, anybody listening to this knows, addicts or alcoholics, we don't do nothing unless we're ready to do it, ready to move on it. And when we are, we'll listen to that information, we'll seek it out. And I think as addicts or as people in recovery with time, we have to be there as guides. We need to be there as guides. I don't think my position is to judge anybody.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But there's one fundamental thing that keeps coming back for me. We are addicts, no question about it. And what we want is a payoff. And if we don't get the payoff, like if you put your money into the slot machine and you hit the button and she goes, bah, well, that sucks. If it goes ding, 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 even if you only won $1, there's a payoff. And I think in sobriety, we're looking for the payoff. It takes a lot of work. And you've got to repeat every day. And I think for a lot of people it's quite a grind, and they're not seeing the payoff. They're still miserable. They're like, yeah, I put down the drink, but I don't have that job I want. I don't have that girl that I've been chasing. I don't have.
The funny thing is, though, as you say that, if that's their attitude, they're not working the program, right? Because if that's what you're saying, you're not working the program, right? Because the program, in a nutshell, is all about acceptance, love, and tolerance, right? So if you don't have a girlfriend, why would you get mad about it? There's the thing about it is if you've been in the program for that amount of time, and that's how you're thinking or that's how you're speaking, you got to do some work on your program. You're not doing the work. If you do the work as it's laid out in those 12 spiritual steps, I can swear on my heart that you will see results if you actually apply yourself to those steps and actually do them. I think those people that say that aren't doing them. There's some people that truly believe that all you got to do is come to meetings, and through osmosis, you'll get the 12 promises or the 9 promises.
Well, that's what I'm kind of alluding to. The fact that, they're not getting what their perceived payoff should be. And so, then,
that's an expectation.
They may not live the misery part. I mean, I was financially stable.
Yeah.
Right? But I wasn't happy.
What did you do to change that? You start working the steps.
There was a few things. When I got a dog, because in COVID I was by myself, so I ended up getting the dog after COVID because, of course, by the time I realized what was happening, that you couldn't get, because everybody was hitting that so hard. That takes me out of myself on the weekends, and I can be present. And that's been a big gift. It's something else to care about.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I say, part of it was my diet and working out in the morning and giving myself a couple of hours in the morning of me time. Where, sometimes the phone would be ringing at 6 a.m. and I've had no heat and whatever. And, right away you're waking up and the first thing you've got to think of is work. Well, like you say, I need a little bit of time just to center myself. And there are a few days now where I have those instances, but very few. Now I've given myself enough time that I can look after myself, and I really enjoy it. Really enjoy it because it's quiet, it's peaceful. I know some people in the gym, good morning. And again, I don't even think about it. If I have to think about it, I'm not going. I'm going to talk myself out of it. I don't think about it. I feed the animals, I throw on my track pants, and I go. And then I come back, and I'll jump in the hot tub. I'll have a little bit of breakfast, and I'm sitting down. I'll have my coffee, I do a little bit of my meditation or prayers, and less amount of electronics as possible. And then I can start my day, and I've got some balance. I've got the mind, body, and spirit. I go back to when you said that to me, it just turned the light on. Yeah, exactly. That combination was what I wasn't getting. For whatever reason, I could work out after work, but the stress was already there. I just, I had to find the recipe that worked for me. And then, like I said, I'm not really, my spiritual side could use work. I'm not going to lie about that. But I do my thing in the morning. But then, I decided that I was going to start this podcast, and that's given me a huge amount of joy. Just thinking about getting different people's perspectives, being able to give back,
Exactly.
being able to open the doors for people. A huge outlet for me. I've gone to some other programs and see some different point of view. I went to a meeting a little while ago, NA. I haven't been to an NA meeting in 15 years. And I'm going to probably try to go this Friday. The good people there, whole different vibe. And so now I think it's just opening up another door for me for growth. Nothing but growth. And I'm just loving every minute of it. It's not even work to me. It just seems like it's a passion. That's lighting my fire, giving me energy.
One of the key things that I found as well is what is changed. It's the most dramatical key cornerstone piece that has changed my program is the service to others. Any act of love, to me is a miracle. Service to others is a miracle. When I go to Sunrise and I chair their meetings there every Tuesday, I'm giving because I usually share for about 15, 20 minutes every time at the end, share my experience drinking open, it touches them. And the speakers touch them. I can do that. I can see a light going on theirs. So now, giving that away, just like what you're doing, that's what keeps me sober. Acts of love for my brothers and sisters in the program, right? Because we're all the same. And I don't even go, well, it's just the people in the program. No, I give my service, my God services or my spiritual services to anybody. People at work. If I'm talking to somebody and I can offer some spiritual advice, I'm giving it, I'm doing it. And every time I do that, it strengthens me. Because what they say in the program is if you want to keep what you have to give it away. That is profoundly true, and I don't know why, but it is. And I think it's what true. You do for yourself, it says what you do for another, what you do for others, you do for yourself. But it's also true what you do for yourself, you do for others. Because if you keep in mind what you do for yourself, it makes you happy. And when you treat yourself good and you love yourself, you will automatically treat others with the same respect that you treat yourself. That's why it's important. What you do for yourself, you do for others. So remember, take care of yourself. Because if you treat yourself shitty, you're going to treat everybody else the same way. Guaranteed.
Yeah, well, it makes a lot of sense. It took me a long time to figure that out. But the other component of it is when you're saying giving it away, sometimes I don't even realize that I have 12 years in. Because to me, I don't think of the time anymore as I used to. It's just...
You got one day.
And then I'm waking up, I'm going to the gym. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm going to the gym. And then, so I've created a new path. And then, like I've heard other people, and I don't want to mention any names, but they say, you really inspire me. And I'm like, really? Oh, yeah, wow, you give me something to shoot for. I stop and think, wow. I give you something to shoot for? That's something. So then when they ask, what do? I don't like to tell anybody what to do, but if they ask, I'd rather share, like we are now, the structure on the different things that I do. And if that's how I can give back, because I think, this world, let's face it, I thought about it the other day. We fly in jets and there's satellites and there's all this stuff. And no one man is responsible. That's all people working together. And right now in the world, let's face it, seems like a pretty screwed up deal. But I've got faith that everything's going to balance out. This is a bit of a rough patch we're hitting right now. We don't get anywhere on our own. We only get anywhere when we work together and help each other out. You don't leave, in a war, you don't leave your friend behind. Forrest Gump, what did he do? They thought he was an idiot. And he ended up getting the Purple Heart. He just kept going back in, and grabbing his buddies. Because that's all he felt. And in the end, that's all we have is really each other. Like I said, I learned that in COVID. When I was sitting here by myself, wow, it freaked me out.
It's a lonely place.
I was okay, but I sure didn't like it. It was a lot better when the world started getting going again. We could, start to function, because I think that was a lesson right there. Do you want to be alone? No, I don't, man.
We're drawn to each other. We are, whether we like it or not. We're all part of the same creator. We all come from the same source. So we're drawn to each other. We're drawn to communicate. We're drawn like cells in a body, right? Like energy attracts like energy. We're attracted to like energy. And that's how we grow. We grow as a unit, right? When we grow I didn't grow by myself. I didn't do this by myself. I did it through other people's books. Other people, somebody else had a hand getting me to where I am at. It wasn't me, myself. It was other people's shares. A lot of it was books that I've read, but somebody had to write those books. They shared their experience so that I could wake up and I could see the light.
And I think there's a lot of truth to be told when you were saying to me today, you weren't ready. Even though you think you're ready, there's a reason why you do an apprenticeship. There is.
Exactly.
And then even when you get your ticket, I'm sure you've experienced this too. And so you're working along, and all of a sudden you may see someone do something, and you've been doing this thing for 20 years. And you see someone do something, you're like, wow, I just learned something. How come I didn't catch on to that 20 years ago? It seems so simple. But you just see somebody do a task a little bit different. And you're like, man, I struggle with that. And this kid comes along, boom, and he just grabs it, and you're like, holy bleep. I never thought of it. And so it's just a continual growing. And I don't think I can't have what you have at 31 years at 12. I can pick up some stuff, and you can help me, but I will have what you have if I continue on my path.
But I got to say, I can't agree with that. I think you can have.
Well, I can come close, but I'm just saying you've got to put in the time.
There's some experience.
There's no.
But it wasn't until I actually turned on working the program. And once I turned on the program, I see people I got people sharing for me at Sunrise. They come in there, and these people got 6 months, they're young, 18-year-old, and the stuff that comes out of their mouth, I'm like, I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the wisdom that's coming out of these young kids. And I think anybody can have, it's there. It's available to anybody at any time. You just got to say, I want it, and I'm going to grab it. And you're just going to take it. It's like, once you know something, you know something. You can beat around the bush, but until you act on your knowing, right? We all know how to do this. We know how to run this program. And when we don't, and when we're out of skew and we know we fucked up. We know we made a mistake. We know we went off course. We know that. No one's got to come up and say, hey, Danny or Sean, you fucked up. We know.
But we're comforted with that old path and old habits that we want to get drawn back into.
It's so important. Like nothing changes. If we don't actively participate in our recovery, there will be no recovery. Right? You can go to as many meetings as you want, learn all the literature, repeat the books, but if you don't apply it, it won't work.
You're dead in the water.
You will get nowhere. You'll be sitting there going, how come I don't have the promises yet? I got 10 years sober. I had 28 years sober and had nothing. But now I got I've got 31, but I've only got it in the last 3 years. So, yeah, you can have it if you actually apply yourself to this program. There's no time limit. It's one day at a time, and your peace and happiness arrives when you decide it.
Willing to accept it.
Willing to accept it and do what it takes to get it. What are you willing to do for your happiness? You're willing to do anything to get sober or to get drunk and high. All of us were.
Yeah.
And we were beautiful at it. I'd have no money, not a dime, but somehow I could manage to get drugs, right? Somehow I could always manage to get drugs or alcohol.
Oh, we'd get it figured out, eh?
So we have the ability in us to get what we want. Why isn't it that we don't want to do something for us? It comes back to the same thing. Why don't you love yourself? Why don't you love yourself? You figure that out, and you'll do all these things for yourself when you love yourself.
Man, that's powerful. Okay, well, we're out of time. And thanks for coming on. We're going to get you coming back.
Thanks, brother.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take care.